Okay, hello everybody, welcome back to Audio Map. Today we're going into part 3 of our mixing series, which is setting up a mix. So if you see here, I have the tracks that we've exported, and then we have the PreMix that we were working out of. So you'll see why that's there in a minute, but let's go ahead and let's just dive in and start setting up our Logic session. So I'm going to open Logic. You'll notice we're still using Rosetta. So let's go ahead and create a new empty project. And let's start getting this set up. So if we look right here, we're going to open up our tracks and we are going to drag them into our session. So I'm going to push create new tracks. And now we have all the tracks nice clean lined up that we've exported in the last video. So if you missed the last video, make sure you go and check it out to see how we got to this stage and how to bounce down and export your production for mixing. But let's just start tidying up this session itself, getting this nice and ready for a focused and productive mix session. So first off, I'm going to go into the media browser. And I want to check out my files and I want to go home because I'm looking for this PreMix. And the reason for that is, whoops, okay, if we click in here, I want to just grab the markers, tempo, and kind of the overhead global information from that. So that way it's just easy to navigate around. I'll just line these up with these markers. And now all these markers are good to go. And let's make this a little bit room there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start setting this up. So I'm going to save it as Starlight Mix. I always label my mixes with mix just so it's really easy to know what session I'm looking at. And I'll save that to the desktop where I'm saving everything else. Okay, so first thing I do is color code. So I like my lead vocals to be just a slightly lighter shade of blue. All my harmonies and dubs are going to be pink. And then also you can go ahead and right click on just the track area around the track name somewhere. And if you go to assign track color, we can also have these colors take effect over here. So by default, if you grab the tracks and you change the color, it's only going to change the region. But if you hit X, then you can change the color while the mixer is open. So X, change your color back to normal, or X again, and then you can get this color changed. So my strings, I usually like doing a nice, some kind of reddish brown. My keys, I'll maybe make another shade of blue. I use blue a little bit too much, but that's okay. And then all of the drums are gonna be gold. And that's just like how I like to set it up. So you can color code it however you want, but this is good for now. Now I'm gonna go ahead, I also like to go in and change the icon. So if you just right click on the icon, then you can set these up however you want. So this is how I do lead and backing vocals. I'm just gonna choose some generic strings, some generic keys. Even the bass is off of a piano, so I'm just gonna click the piano here. Okay, and then we got toms, so let's look at the drums. Had just a tom, snare, kick, and that looks good. Let's see, overhead mono, maybe we'll just do one speaker. Overhead stereo, we can do, there's no set of two. There's two over here, but now I want it to be consistent, so I'll just go ahead and give it, that's fine. Overhead, and then we have the crash. So let's see, something like, maybe that guy. We got a couple hi-hats. Looks fine. Then we have the toms, snare, and two kicks. Okay. Oh, and we missed the room. the room. Maybe that's fine. Okay, so now it's just it's a little bit cleaner, it's a little bit easier to navigate around. Got all our tracks. I'm gonna turn all of these down for a second. So we're just looking that everything sounds in time and that nothing crazy or unexpected occurred from the export from the previous video. Okay, everything sounds good to me. Okay, so we're almost done setting up this mix. We've got just about everything looking good. Now we want to go ahead and organize these into buses. So if you're not familiar with buses, basically we can have, all similar instruments or vocals routed to one track. And then we can apply plugins or change the volume and have that affect essentially all of those tracks simultaneously. So the kind of general mixing principle I'm going to be teaching in this series falls under the umbrella of top-down mixing. So essentially we're going to group the lead vocals, the backing vocals, the strings, the piano, the bass, and the drums into all separate groups. And then we're going to route those together in another layer, and then route those together for the final output. It's kind of how it'll work. So it'll be a little bit clearer as we go, but let's go ahead and just start grouping these. So I have the 3 lead vocals selected, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to output them to bus 1. Okay, now I'm going to take the backing vocals and I'm going to output them to bus 2. And so on and so forth. So now these are our first 5 buses. I'm going to highlight them all and I'm going to create track. I like to be able to see them in my mixing session. So here we have the lead vocal. Our second track was, or our second bus was the backing vocal. Then we have the strings. And we have the keys. It looks like I didn't make a separate bus for this by mistake. So the bass is its own bus. So I'm going to make that one 5 and then all of the drums bus 6. Okay, so 5 is bass. And then let's create a track for bus 6. And then this is drums. Okay. Next step. So I'm going to route the lead and the backing vocal together into another bus. So let's put that in bus 7. I'm going to put all the instruments into another bus, bus 8. The drums are still fine on their own. So let's go ahead and add these two. Create track. So I'm going to put these above because they're kind of, here we have the vox and we have the inst. I'm going to throw the drums kind of in between with them. I'm going to color code these a little differently too. So let's say maybe a nice orange, red. And I'll make all these guys green. Doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to set it apart visually. So now we have our 3 Uber buses, and then these 5 buses feed into those, roughly speaking, and then we have all the tracks. There's a few more things I want to do though. So I don't like actually putting plugins on my stereo output. So all of these eventually lead, when we get to these final 3 buses, to the stereo output. So you can add plugins here, you can change the gain slider here. I don't like to put plugins that are affecting my that are part of the mix on the stereo output. This is where I put my monitoring plugins to help change how I can monitor either with headphones or with speakers or various things. So you'll see that in some of the mixing videos. But I essentially just like to take these final ones and I like to put them into one more bus. And so that final bus should be bus 9. Where is it? So the bus gets created automatically. Oh, I put the input. I meant to go from here. So if you change these, that's not what you want to change. You want to go down here and bus 9. I think it should be. Why are these all the same inputs now? 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's good. and then bus 9. So now over here, I'm going to go create track. And then this is going to be our, I like to just call it sub. And I'll make that a new color, maybe purple. So this is where all of the mix condenses to, and then that goes to the stereo output. So this is where I'll be putting my mix bus plugins, as we'll start seeing a couple videos from now, I believe. So there's a couple other things I like to do at this point. So I like to take all the instruments and I route them. No, I don't route them. I don't change the bus here. I send them to the next bus. So this is going to be bus 10. I'm going to give that a full amount. And then bus 10 appears over here, so create track. This is what I call the rear bus. So this is going to be used for a parallel compression technique that I learned from Graham at the Recording Revolution quite a while ago. So I like this technique, and you don't need to understand what this is doing right now, but just go ahead and take all of your instrument tracks, excluding your drums, don't include the drums, and send them to something, a bus that you then call rear bus. And go ahead and turn its gain slider all the way down. We don't want that to be doubling the volume of the listening session before we add a plugin and have it do what it's supposed to do. And then I also do a similar thing for some of the drums. So I'm going to grab all the kicks, snares, and toms, and I'm going to have those send to the next bus, so bus 11. And create track here. And this one I'm going to just include as part of the drums. And I'm going to call this parallel drums. So this is going to be just, and also pull its gain slider all the way down. This will be, essentially, I want to just feed this straight into the drum bus itself along with the other drum tracks. So this will just be a way, like we're using a parallel effect over here with the rear bus, but it's just instruments. This will be doing some of the key drum tracks to add a little bit more grit and kind of impact using a similar technique. So also I forgot that this rear bus should route into the stereo out, so the sub actually right here. Okay, so those final two things, we had all the kicks, snares, and toms routed to a bus that then gets routed to the drum bus. And then we have over here a rear bus that was all the instruments sent to a bus that then gets routed to our sub. And we just go ahead and take a listen, make sure everything sounds right. And you'll notice now it's really easy to just solo the vocals or the instrumental, the drums. If you option click on any of the solo buttons, it'll turn off whatever else you had soloed. So you can also option click on the mute and have a different kind of option click going on as you go. So option M will turn off any mutes you currently have. And if you have anything soloed, option S, or just really holding option while clicking the solo button. But now it's really easy. You can see how this setup makes it easy to start controlling our mix really specifically right from the beginning. And then as a final step, I usually go and I change these icons as well. So the bass, let's just go and give it, that's fine. Keys, strings, backing vocals, lead vocal, drums. Let's see. I always have one word I sigh in each video. Okay, instruments. Let's see, maybe that looks fine. Vocals. I don't usually have to reset these every single time I set up a mix because I work out of a mix template. So we'll set these once the mix template, and then they'll already be set up every time we go into it, into a new session. So vocals, rear bus, and then our final output sub. Okay, so now we have our full mix session set up. Oh, one last thing. If we go into Project Alternatives, I edit Alternatives, I double click on this first one, and I rename it 01 Static Mix. With each stage, we'll go ahead and create a new alternative. That way, if we mess the mix up significantly at any individual stage, it's possible to just go back to the previous stage and just, start from there, or, grab a track from there, or what have you. So now we're ready to start a mix. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any future videos in this mixing series or performance on the M1 Max. Stay tuned for our next video on the static mix, the first stage of mixing. Thanks, guys.